Hey everybody, Shane speaking with Telarus, and once again I'm joined with one of my good friends, Mr. Josh Lupresto, our Vice President of Solutions Engineering.
Hey buddy, happy to be here.
Look, we had such a great response from that first video that we did, and so what we decided to do is put together a multi-part series where we talk about all things Microsoft Teams. Everything from direct routing to the licensing to every consideration that you would need as a partner to make sure that you know absolutely everything with this product set. So with that in mind, obviously you've received so many questions. As an organization, it seems as though this is the hottest topic, and so it deserves a second look. And in fact, when you and I talked about it, we decided, look, what we'll do is we'll not only talk about the perspective from sales engineering, we'll also go outside of the company, look at research companies and what they're seeing and how it's impacting different verticals. We'll talk about the supplier portfolios and what we can look at as expertise, real value, and even a little fluff. So let's digest some of that, and over these next few series that we do, let's make sure that at the end of the day, what we bring is real value to that partner. So first question I have for you is, what are the most common questions that you're getting?
I think it starts with direct routing, right? What is direct routing? Does it matter if I do direct routing or not direct routing? So the first thing to consider is that I don't think in the end Microsoft really wants to carry that voice traffic. They're a large company, they do a lot of different things, not to say that they wouldn't be good at it, but what they've realized is that their money's in the software, their money's in the licensing. So they're obviously going to continue strong down that road. So then it becomes, okay, how do I travel down this voice path? So from an architecture perspective, if you want direct routing, which is key out of the UC providers, you have to recognize that that voice traffic is going to be offloaded off the Microsoft network and over to one of those key UC providers. And so I know we're going to jump into what that means and what those licensing structures are. That's the key component of this to remember, is that when you're making a Teams-to-Teams call, that doesn't matter. But if you're starting to call users outside the Teams environment or having others call in, then that's where these things come into play, is how is that voice traffic being routed?
Let's talk about those licensing requirements. It seemed as though when we started the conversation, there was an absolute in what you could or could not do with the different licensing. As we started talking with different suppliers, we started receiving different answers as to what was possible, whether that was with an E3 or an E5. So why don't you give us a little synopsis as to what we've learned?
Yeah, there really is subtle differentiators, right? There's three key things that I think people have to consider. There's one, the licensing structure. Do I have an E1? Do I have an E3? Do I have an E5, right? What do I have with that? And with the E3, you get some components of Teams, naturally for the collaboration. With the E5, you get some calling components in that and some voice plans in that. So you've got to disseminate which licensing structure do I have right now. So let's say, for example, we have the E3 license. Then the second piece of that we need is we need the PBX license as well. So you have an additional secondary cost on that. And then the third component is, what kind of calling plan am I going to have on that? And this is where, if I choose the Microsoft calling plan, then all that traffic stays on the Microsoft network. And I'm beholden to what that gives me from an advantage or disadvantage perspective, maybe with regard to limited voice minutes and things like that. Or do I go the route of one of the partners that we're going to talk to throughout this series of the direct routing? And offloading that traffic, what do I get for that? Because you can swap out that third component of, rather than doing it with Microsoft, you can bring in one of these UC providers that we're going to mention, and there's very subtle cost differences there. And I think the benefit absolutely outweighs the cost in what you get there with regard to the support, right? For very minimal extra cost, you can either choose to have this UC entity supporting and doing all the things like porting that they're good at, that they do day to day and have done it for years, or do we have Microsoft do it, right? Where, not to say that they're bad at supporting things, but you're calling into a massive organization. This is just one product that they have. So little differentiators like that, other things that we're going to get into where, you know, if people are calling global, and that's a key component of this, there's unlimited minutes to certain countries, large amounts of countries that some of our providers have. So it's that third component that really starts to differentiate some of the suppliers, and I think help our customers, their customers, understand the differences between trying to do it through Microsoft Direct or through one of our UC partners.
Thank you, that's great. And you know, as you and I have gone through the process and we've pressed our suppliers for quantitative data as to what those MOS scores look like, whether that's on Microsoft's network or their own, it's been really clear that there's a lot of confusion as to, well, you know, yeah, maybe it's not as good over the Microsoft network, but let's be honest, they've got a fantastic network. And with the Metaswitch acquisition, it really gave them a lot of advantages. However, I would say that the suppliers that we have within our portfolio have definitely proven time and time again that they're not only very reliable, but they're very, very good to work with. And so it becomes more important, I think, as we look at the different providers, who exactly is doing this, who has the experience, and once again, who has that native or direct routing. So let's talk about the user experience. Just in general, do you have any feedback as to what you've heard, whether that's going native or with this direct route, or perhaps using a third party?
Yeah, just feedback initially that I've heard is that if I'm a business that predicates myself on making and taking calls, and that's a key aspect of the way that we go about business and our customers talk to us, then I have to look at somebody that's their business model as well. I can't afford to have this just be an additional ancillary product and know that I'm going to get the support, the management, the porting, all these extended capabilities. I need somebody that has done that and can help me with that and has done that for years and years. And so I think the key component of that, as we get into kind of some of the architecture, is understanding what it takes to be a certified provider and what kind of technology that takes. So I would just ask of the organizations that are looking at this of, how has your support been with regard to the other things that you have done with Microsoft and licensing, right? Have you gotten the support and the structure that you've needed there? And can you afford to get that sort of same support and response rates and things like that with regard to voice? And where does it fit in? And that's where I think some of our partners can be a little more responsive.
Can you speak to some of the SBCs that are authorized on the Microsoft page?
Yeah, so part of this journey was fun, right? Trying to figure out who does what and what are the differentiators. And so what we realized was that what anybody says doesn't really matter. What Microsoft says of who we are certified with from an SBC perspective matters. So when you think about technologies like Ribbon, Oracle, Meta, Audio Codes, and Cisco, that's it. That's on the list. There's maybe one or two others, but those are the big names that are on the Microsoft Certified Direct Routing list. So what we ask as we go down through our supplier list is, okay, you're a direct routing partner, or you integrate through direct routing or call to Teams to some extent. What SBCs do you have? Oh, okay, maybe we have Audio Codes, or maybe we have Cisco. Okay, cool, where are those at? So you have to get into understanding that architecture so that you know how it's going to fit into your customer's architecture. And you may find that those Audio Codes are living on-prem at a data center somewhere. Maybe that's fine. You may find that they're virtualized in the UC provider's instance of Azure, right adjacent to where Microsoft has Teams and those things living, so that maybe that makes a little more sense in your architecture. So you've got to really call out and ask of the suppliers, what do they have? If they're that partner, what SBCs are they using? Where are they? And kind of what's their go-to-market and long-term plans with those?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, last week, Microsoft did a U-turn with one of its announcements into the third-party UCaaS routing. Let's talk about that and what the implications are for the partner community.
Yeah, so I think we made it a whole hour before we talked about Teams. And we saw that article come out, and it was, look, we've heard Microsoft went from 25 million to 75 million users, had that momentum rocking and rolling, right? Kind of going down the path, this tunnel vision path. And we really wanted to make sure, and we were understanding, how do our UC providers fit into that, right? How do we still make sure that we're part of that equation and justify that in the business case? And so, obviously out of that, we were expecting to see big things out of Teams, adding 49 plus video participants or whatever it is to the video window when you're doing presentations. But they were slated to roll out additional features. They were going to start to give voice minutes out and add some extending global capabilities, and they pumped the brakes at the last minute. And I think a good thing, right? A good thing for us, a good thing for our partners, in that they realize, if we do that, all of these vendors, these UC providers that have chosen to lock arms with us alongside ours, locking their strategy with our strategy, that wouldn't be great for them, right? And that would be cutting off. And that's not what Microsoft's about. They're about their partner ecosystem and embracing that. So it was good to see them pump the brakes and go, you know what? We really don't want this voice traffic rolling across our network any more than we already have to. Let's fully really stop to understand what the impact of adding features and adding functionality like that does to all of our routing partners. And so it was cool to see them pump the brakes on that. We'll see, we'll pay attention to this and see what all the new latest and greatest is. But it's good, and it just shows that they really are embracing these routing partners, and so it'll be key for years to come.
That's great information. Thanks, Josh. And of course, partners, suppliers, and everybody out there, we'll continue this series and we'll make sure that we continue to bring the most up-to-date information for Microsoft Teams. If you have any comments, any questions, anything that you'd like our engineering staff to cover, please let us know. But we're always available here to help you. Thanks, everybody.